So hi everybody, welcome to the Cardano Talent After Town Hall breakout room. Thank you for joining me, joining us here. Basically, the idea shortly came to me to open kind of a Discord server for Cardano professionals. That's something that I maybe sorely missed when I started out my Cardano career, and the idea is to have a place where real professional conversations can be held with different sections of business, whether that's business development, marketing, social media, HR, legal, of course dev, many subcategories of developers. I made a Twitter post, and in that Twitter post I Julio and Andrea responded, then a bit later Morgan. So I had a few meetings, so I would maybe like to give a few minutes first to Andrea to present We3 shortly, and then after that Julio, where he can present Cardano jobs, and then we can hit it off from there. Morgan, of course, I would like to give you an opportunity after them to say your piece and how do you see these potential collaborations. But yes, please, Andrea, if you want.
Thank you. Of course I want. That's why we're all here. V3 is a talent acquisition and HR partner. What makes us different from the other, let's say, like Philip said, recruiting companies, it's that we are building a platform which is for a talent network platform, making candidates and companies present themselves in a way of different way of than usual recruiting processes. So there is no unnecessary conversations or recruiting processes. It's just a platform where you can present yourself and company can present itself and they can collaborate. So what makes us different also is that we are more personalized career support. So we are targeted in training and education resources while we're building a network of connections with companies, and we are looking for individuals to hire to hire their next top talent. So basically we are matchmaking the people, but we take personalized moment to see what they really need. So it's not just a resume in our database. We really get in the personality and for example companies companies needs. So we are also having the Discord talent network, where is the community already made. So it connects the values with Cardano's values. So basically we are community driven talent acquisition.
Thank you, Andrea. If you want to maybe share an invite to your Discord server, or
yeah,
I
will share a Discord server and the LinkedIn page.
Thank you.
So you can check it out.
Maybe we can hear from Julio next, and then we will later have questions for all of us and open the discussion.
Absolutely. Hi, guys. Nice to meet you all. So Cardano jobs, I think it's best to start with why it exists in the first place. I was looking to get a job in Cardano, didn't really care about what it was. I just wanted it to work somewhere in the ecosystem. About 2 years ago, realized there was no canonical job board for anyone to apply to. Any jobs would be spread along multiple, let's say, crypto Web3 job platforms. And I thought, well, I'm a developer, why not build it? So I did. And it is a plain and simple job board solution where you have people posting resumes, companies creating profiles and posting jobs, and doing application tracking. So you can apply directly on the platform. You can get email notifications for new jobs. It's got a nice suite of products thanks to merging some job board as a service software. So it's pretty cheap to run as well. I manage it on my own, and I'm bringing on partners to help with marketing and various things. But really, the whole point of the job board is to have one single place for Cardano enthusiasts, which is, I think, why we're all here. Hence why let's say the future of Cardano jobs is really up. Well, I want it to be up to people that want to help. I have no real, interest to keeping it solely for myself. It's something for the community. It always kind of has been, and I want to open it up to as many people as possible. So something like what you're proposing, a Discord server, is exactly the kind of synergies that Cardano Jobs needs. Whether we want to open up Cardano Jobs as well and get more people involved, I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm here to show what I've got, and if anyone wants to help me deliver something, that'd be great.
Thank you, Julio. Thank you. Morgan, I don't know if you maybe want to share your perspective on, I think Ben kind of tagged you in this conversation. There was talks about having this connected somehow to Essential Cardano or something like that.
All right. Yes. Hello, everyone. It's great to meet you all. Andrea, I think we met in Belgrade some time ago, yourself and Alex. It was
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, great to see you again.
You too.
So for those that don't know me, I'm head of ecosystem growth at IOG. So my team's responsible for a lot of the content, social media, marketing behind IOG as a business, as well as of course the Cardano blockchain and the core node updates. Essential Cardano is kind of my baby. It's a slow running, but we'll kind of get there. We're trying to make it a community run site. It's kind of got my face on it right now, which I'm trying to change soon. But anyway, Essential Cardano is a great opportunity for us here, especially within this topic, to invite the community to kind of collate what opportunities are going on. And I think actually Catalyst, the more I think about it, Catalyst projects that are going through the milestone updates are prime candidates for, I mean, they have funding, right? They're validated. They are heading towards product market fit, and it's very likely they want to hire. So one thing I'm looking at is supporting what you guys do and having some form of content or job posting or knowledge sharing on Essential Cardano. And really at this stage, I'm just trying to understand what the needs of the community are, what the current volume is. You know, obviously we're in kind of bear market vibes. I think in the next year or two, if we're proactive now, things will look to change a lot. So really that's all I'm here to do, is just ask interesting questions, learn about what you're already working on, and find areas that we can work together. This is not IOG trying to like take your lunch or do what you do best. We really want to work with the community. And as an example, so we actually are working with the likes of Cardano Cubed and Built on Cardano and other listing sites to build or rather import and share traffic between our sites in a collaborative way, and support the community with kind of a product listing, project listing, some profile listings. There's stuff I can't talk about there yet, but there may be like an identity element to that with Atala, our product Atala. And okay, cool, nice. Yeah, I know some of the Emergo guys. We can have a chat. where was I? Yeah, so anyway, the point I was making was I want this to really be a fact-finding and collaborative effort. Cool.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, all three of you. I know a few of the rest in this call. Does anyone have any questions, or they want to offer their perspectives on this? Maybe Matthias is fine as founder, Felix as a community, member, Obu, Dario.
Yeah, hi. Nice meeting you guys. All right. So particularly, I'm very interested in this particular discussion. Vanessa, I don't know if she asked me, like she just chatted me up and be like, this Cardano Talent discussion, would you like to attend? And I was like, oh, I almost missed town hall today, and I would have really missed this discussion. So I'm so glad I'm here because what we're doing is part of what I am also doing in my own ecosystem, in my own little community. And I think it's nice that I'm seeing other people doing it as well and trying to see how can we create collaborations around what we do and see how can we do it better, right? Since we're speaking the same language. For me, I'm from Remostats. I'm the founder of Remostats, so I'm going to put that here. So basically, we are more focused on diversity and inclusion in the whole hiring process. That's where we are all like that. That's the language I speak. So we're trying to see how can we use blockchain as a decentralizer of opportunities and all of that. So there's a whole lot of discussion around that. The fact that opportunities are not decentralized. People from certain backgrounds are much more prone to getting jobs as compared to people from other backgrounds. So I've been trying to see how we can decentralize these opportunities, give more opportunities to people from unrepresented backgrounds. And when I say unrepresented backgrounds, I mean that geographically, and I also mean that demographically. So Blacks and persons of color, LGBTQ communities, and every other communities that are disenfranchised. And geographically, I also mean people from Africa, I mean people from Latin America, people from Asia. So that's basically what I do. We got a funded proposal in the African challenge, and currently we are trying to see how, so we called it the job shadowing platform concept. So the concept was about, we fund so people learn, they earn, so they earn while they're learning, people from Africa, because we realize that much of these people, one of the backgrounds, one of the issues they mostly have is lack of experience and all that. So we are trying to collaborate with people that speak similar language with us, to be like, all right, can you take these people? And yeah, they are not, there are a lot of hindrances to their efficiency, but take them and let them grow. And as they are growing, they are also earning, and they are earning in other. So that has been the concept of the project, and it's been going fine. And we have a lot of stories that success stories that I would just like to share a few more for time. But it's been beautiful seeing people who really had no opportunities being given opportunities, and what they've been able to make out of their life has been amazing. So yeah, I'll just cut it there.
Thank you, Abu. That's a very nice insight. Do we have some more questions, comments? Because I would like to guide the discussion in one way, but I would like to hear first everyone if someone wants to say something. Okay.
I'll share my two Lovelaces really quick, Philip. So from my perspective, as a company, not only CEO, but also co-founder, what we've seen since the later half of 2021 is we found great success in hiring, onboarding people that have software engineering background and are excited about Web3 or blockchain or cryptocurrency, specifically Cardano, getting them into the door. So that was great. Earlier on, and we talked Pluto's V1, and when the PAB was still the fabled thing that will solve all our problems, we discovered that developing on Cardano is really, really difficult if you're talking about production readiness, right? So I think this is where the ecosystem component comes in, and there are many probably better places to talk about that in regards to the developer experience, and there are headways there, and it's been great. But that is something that I think people need to be very, very transparent about, right? It is not the Solidity having all these problems. Like I don't touch that. Let's call it programming language, but I don't like it. But people have an easier time getting started on there. Other blockchains have a lot of easier things to get started. We worked with people in Africa as well, where the infrastructure wasn't great, and especially with Plutus, right? You know, Cabal and all this stuff. It's great to, you know, go geographically diverse, but if you cannot ever build a your Cabal package and actually compile Plutus code, then it's a problem. The way we solved that is we had a machine here in California, and they SSH'd into the machine, ran a terminal multiplexer like Tmux or screen on it, so that when the connection gets interrupted, it can still build. Like, you know, all that stuff is really, really horrible. And I think right now it's still important to know what it actually looks like on a day-to-day developing it and selling their opportunity, because not only do you want to get people into the door and excited about Cardano, but you also want to keep them there, right? So acknowledge that, and granted, things got improved a lot over the past year, but you know, it's still not as nicely packaged where you can find a tutorial maybe, right, and follow that along. That's not really programming, but it's besides the point. The other part is really, and this is what we do about at Lox and my background in dispute resolution. And I'm obviously very biased because we sell a solution, right? You need third-party dispute resolution processes if you actually are serious about inclusion. That's just my opinion, and I'm happy to talk about that at other times. Yeah, those are just my 2 cents that I wanted to share.
Thank you, Matthias. So from what I heard and what I spoke with Giulio and with Alexander and Andrea's colleague, there is, let's say, there is a demand for talent. Let's not limit ourselves to the technical talent, but there is a demand for the talent within this ecosystem, right? My experience shows me that the more experience you have in this ecosystem, the easier it is for you to find jobs on Cardano. The easier it is for you to find higher paying jobs on Cardano. Let's be transparent. But the difficult part is to get that first foot in, right? And okay, yes, if you're a developer and very high, you know, very pain tolerant developer, you can start with Bluetooth or you know, some difficulties like that. But I don't see why people don't take on roles, and I think Catalyst is a great example. Why don't we just take on roles to moderate the after town hall? Why don't we take the roles to be a Discord moderator or a social media content creator, or you know, something much, I'm not insulting anyone, of course, but something that's technically simpler and that can get your foot in, that will introduce you and make you go forward, right? Because that's something coming from the Catalyst community. I see a lot of people who are passionate, who are putting in their time, basically volunteering for a long time, 6 months, a year, being PAs, VPAs, making some money here and there, or no money, or just being part of all these groups, and basically just volunteering, never making that jump, subconsciously or consciously wanting to make that jump. Okay, I want to live off of this, but just not making it, right? And I believe that the Discord server can be a place for those people to share experiences, to have conversations that are maybe sometimes industry, I'm not going to call them secrets, but you know how, now Matthias said basically off the cuff how we were promised this wonderful PAB that's going to, solve our issues. And he's just saying it as because he knows it, that's his experience. There are many people who don't have that experience. There are many of these things that we can maybe openly discuss there, where we can share materials and where we can share all of your jobs that you have on all of your boards, right? The idea of the Discord server is not to make money, definitely not at this point, maybe someday for someone, but definitely not to make money on people who are looking for jobs, right? I'm happy one day making money from a recruitment company or a company that's looking for people, fine. But I'm not happy making money one day or in the future from people who are looking for jobs, right? And I feel that place can be like an encouragement, like a push forward, where we can say, okay, well, find a side gig, make 100 data here, 200 data there, get some experience, and then go somewhere, right? What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What are your experiences with that?
Well, for me, that I'm a full agree on that side. The Discord server is supposed to really ease in people into this ecosystem. Now, the problem of it being, too hard to develop, or stuff like that, this is solved by like incubation and internships and various learning platforms. But you're speaking more broadly about any kind of role. How do we help them and ease them in any job that can be found? And yes, something like Discord is perfect. The question is the management, the people that are going to be there. How do we get the people there? We have to combine. As you know, the number of Discord servers is growing in Cardano. How do we find a canonical way to all be in the same place?
I agree, and I think that the content has to be attractive enough, and that's the challenge that I am ready to take maybe by myself in the beginning. But of course, I'm looking for help, advice, and anything else. And I know when I started out, it seemed look like IOG was my dream job. Like I thought that would be the pinnacle of my career. And then you go through their job list and you see these crazy, cryptographers, cipher, whatever people, and you just get scared, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be so. It can be easier. It can be a normal process that slows you in, kind of guides you into that. And there are places there because that's the only way that we can make professionals. Like that's my opinion. Unless you're a PhD or something very crazy, we cannot maybe jump. That's not maybe for the general population, These recruitment processes in IOG, in Emergo, in CF are difficult, long, 4 or 5 interviews, and then you get rejected or things like that. And that's not something that is supposed to be a first interaction with someone, right? There are plenty of projects in our ecosystem. I work currently for Genius Yield. I'm a technical project manager there. I used to work for Revuto. There are many of these smaller projects where you can just start off and say, hey, look, I did this. I know these people. I'm good at that. I'm willing to learn. Can we start something? And that would be my idea. And then build the people from there and then give them, real full-time proper jobs where they can grow. Maybe Morgan, I would hear your thoughts on this if you have something to add or say.
Yeah, I hear your pain. I can relate. We all get a start somewhere. For me, it became very obvious early on in my career that if I wasn't heavily marketing myself, no one was going to do it for me. And Yeah, it took me 6 months to get to my position at IOG. And they weren't even hiring for my role. I was just wanting to work here. so I applied. So I have a question then. Because what it feels to me, I want to put in a statement, an assumption out there, and I'd like everyone to just like steer me correct or correct me if I'm wrong. But right now, the two-sided marketplace for jobs in the Cardano ecosystem. So what I mean by that is demand side being projects or companies hiring, and supply side being candidates, right? If we take it from that perspective, is pretty scarce right now on both sides from the sounds of it. Would anyone agree with that? Or is it more one side than the other?
I would not agree. I am of the opinion, I don't have the numbers or the facts, but I am of the opinion that the demand side is still quite high. Now, high meaning there are open positions, but my feeling is open positions are for these high complex level roles that are very difficult to find. That's, I would say that, you know, having an advanced cryptographer is difficult to find everywhere, right? Because there are not so many people. But I don't know. Yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
So
sorry,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I would say from my side, from what I've seen, I would agree with the fact that there is a lack of supply for the high advanced jobs. There's not that I'm not seeing loads of jobs fly off the shelf of general roles either. And I'm not seeing a lot of I'm not sure if the search for cryptographers or really high-skilled developers is abnormal because we have a developer shortage anyway. So I'm not sure if it's just because it's the Cardano space or just in general developers are in need everywhere. But yeah, I'm it's not a super vibrant. Yeah, it's not thriving. So I would agree with you in general.
Matthias, what do you think?
Yeah, in terms of we talk about demand and supply, I mean different things. So from a company perspective, right, I would talk about open job postings as demand, and the supply, again, for my position, right, job seekers supply. There's an oversupply in my view, but it's really, really hard to sift through all of the bad applications. We get every week, and we don't even have an active job posting right now for our company on AngelList Talent, now well found, right? This is really the only thing that we put job postings on, and we still get hundreds of applications every week. And there are some really great people. Like, you know, you have the people who interned at Google and YouTube twice already. You know, they're top of their class, MIT level university and all that stuff. But even then, sometimes it's not a great fit. And this was a learning opportunity. It's not as easy as, okay, these are the skills that you have, and this is the skills I need, and match that. I mean, that's really simple. It's a graph database, right? So it's hiring remains difficult, and especially at smaller projects. I think any individual hire, even temporary person that you let into your space can have any kind of effect, and you hope for the best, right? But we've also seen really, really, really bad outcomes in our company, and those outcomes are very disastrous, especially if funding is a current issue, because we didn't find product market fit just yet, right? And especially with a shift to more enterprise solutions, you know, longer cycles. And it's just really, really difficult right now it's difficult to give people chances, because like before our first hire, beyond the founding team and beyond people that I worked with in the past, to get through even the first intern, I personally interviewed hundreds of people because, you know, I read it as like, oh, they seem great. You know, their GitHub is decent, you know, give them an opportunity. And it's great that, for example, we can offer someone in Nigeria $500, you know, in a month. That is like laughable for a Silicon Valley based, even high school intern, but it might be life-changing for someone in Nigeria, right? So, and it's great, but by the end of the day, if there's really not continuity, because this is not welfare and we're still trying to figure things out, but we need to move to profitability. So the whole state of Catalyst and what funding is available for Cardano projects that really try to create businesses and that can sustain the growth of the industry overall and within specifically the Cardano ecosystem, so we can have all, you know, people flocking to Cardano. It's a very rough spot right now compared to, let's say, a year ago. That's my perspective right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Andrea. I was just about to ask you. Yeah.
If I can say, I can relate to Philip and Morgan and Matthias all together. I think all of you have the good points, but connection and correlation between demand and supply are, I think, the biggest issue. Like Morgan said, or Philip, I'm not sure, the titles for the candidates are maybe not, they're sounding like cryptography or something, but some candidates, they are not sure that they're good fit for it, and they are. In the other hand, for us, the supply is in Europe, but in USA, supply is much more higher than demand. But in Cardano case, I think I'm not specialist. I'm fan of Cardano, but demand is a little bit lower in total, and there are more higher roles. And like Matthias said, you need a lot of interviews and filters for it, but at the same time, some of the candidates don't want to go through that. Some of them, they just give up somewhere even though they're good. So I think that literally the conversation, or how you how you post something will communicate, will change the connection between demand and supply in any acquisition space, even in Cardano. So that's my experience for now.
Thank you, Andrea. And I think you have maybe from us here a bit of a unique perspective, because you do talent acquisition for many other like crypto ecosystems and projects, and maybe you can share a little bit on the differences between those, to not just limit us on Cardano. What can we learn from others?
I like Cardano because it's a community driven and it's not some profit driven like any other ones. But I will not specifically say about other companies or chains. It's not different. It's just differently communicated. Like I said, they're more out there. Cardano space is specific because they have their values and they're not out there so much, which I respect, and that's why I'm a fan of. But they need to get out there because they're really quality technology, quality people. So maybe to promote it more openly, or literally to do better outreach everywhere, because it's a great technology in my case. So that's my advice, and that's why we wanted to cooperate with you and with Cardano in general. So go out there.
Thank you. Does someone have comments on Andrea, Matthias?
Yeah, if I can just mirror back for understanding. So what I was hearing so far is mostly Cardano roles are very technical, which is a constraint. Hiring is hard and risky, especially if you're a startup, even scale up, budget's low, you know, and the risk on reputation, on technical implementation in production can be very high. Something I picked up on and highlighted there was titles. Andrea raised a very good point in that I think, especially in emerging technology, when titles are unclear or lines are blurred, it can go one of two ways. You can either get people who are like, yeah, I'll just blag it and I'll figure it out, I'll do it. Or people who are like, do you know what? I've got like 5 out of 10 skills there, but you know, I just won't bother applying. And that's a shame because they could be a legit candidate. We'd probably prefer the latter personality to the former in some cases. What immediately comes to mind is if there was an AI solution for that. I'll leave that there. Okay, so I have a couple of other follow-up questions then. Has anyone here either been hired into a community project or recruited people into community projects? That could be for anything, IO, Cardano, Catalyst, anything. Yeah, feel free to go around the room. I'd love to hear, what was that experience like? Is it scalable, repeatable, and what was good and what needs improving?
Maybe Matthias, we can give Nin the opportunity first, and then yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, give me a sec. Let me just do this. Great discussion, actually. I've hired a lot of people. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Cool. So I've hired a lot of people for our team. Obviously, we're a Cardano project, and I've helped other companies and other projects in Cardano hire people. They're looking for mostly developers, you know, Haskell Plutus. Before Cardano had like PyCardano and Helios and Mesh and all the other ones, other frameworks that allow devs and dev teams to build on JavaScript or Python or whatever, right, outside of Haskell. So before Haskell and Plutus, it was really tough to find people on budget, especially. It's not that they're not there, right? It's just that they're very few, and with Catalyst funding a ton of projects that promise to build on Cardano using Haskell, they're always in demand. But for the devs themselves, it was about, okay, how much does the job pay, right? Now, with the new frameworks where you have, you know, Cardano Pi, we have literally millions of Python developers that are normally in Web 2 that work on, you know, Python projects. They can be data scientists, machine learning, or just full stack Python Jungle, Python Flask people that we can literally email and outreach to using our AI system, where we match and just tell them about the cool project on Cardano that's hiring and has a bounty on Snapdelia, for example. And you know, we essentially filter out people who are not interested because they maybe work at Microsoft or Facebook or other like big name companies, and who otherwise you know, are not willing to take the bounty because they're too busy, or it's not worth their time because it's not enough money for them. So we filter those uninterested people out and then deliver qualified and interested candidates. And that has been working extremely well for any project that wanted to hire like front-end developers, back-end developers, full stack, anything in Web 2. There's not a ton of devs in Web 3 that I mean, I talked to IO people, IO devs to hire for our roles for like prison implementation and so on. But the conversation quickly turned into how much does it pay, right? And obviously we can't afford to pay as much as IO because we're a small startup. but it turned into, okay, hey, let's collaborate. Can you guys come in and be advisors and so on? And what I've learned is, even if we are able to reach out to Web2 devs or Web2 talent, for designers, marketers, whatever, they have the transferable skills, and the project owners become mentors for these Web2 talent and tell them about Cardano, tell them about the Cardano developer portal, tell them about, you know, Block Frost and Make a Pay and a bunch of different SDKs and APIs that they can use to build, right? So that has been my experience. Now we're selling to enterprise Web2 companies in healthcare, because they always want to hire nurses and pharmacy tech and so on. And when people apply and finish jobs or finish bounties or get hired, we automatically onboard them to Cardano by verified credentials or by having them have a wallet or whatever. So, yeah.
Thank you, Nin. Thank you. Very nice insight. Yeah, I think Matthias was next. Yeah.
Yeah, not much to add, but I have experience on both sides. So the getting hired position was fairly straightforward. I think I just saw that M Labs was hiring, but they also had internships positions, and I didn't want to, you know, because I was in the process of building my company, I figured, you know what, let me intern at M Labs. That was a pretty straightforward process because I did already have Haskell experience, some rudimentary. So there was 2 interviews essentially, and then, you know, I was an intern, worked on some production code for Liquid. That was fun. And then because I've been in Catalyst, you know, just showing up, just like Morgan, you know, just showing up, kind of like self-marketing in a sense, right? Just showing up sometimes is enough marketing that you need to do. You know, I was part of the first Gimbal Labs Pluto's project-based learning cohort where I, you know, did a little bit of education material, and it's just by showing up, having these personal connections, and that was great, right? Granted, there was Catalyst funded proposal, and so it was low risk for, at that time, for the product owner or project owner rather. So that was good. And I talked a little bit about, you know, being on the other side of hiring. And I mean, hiring is relatively simple, right? You just need to figure out if the candidate has the capacity to do the job, whether they want to do the job, and if you want to work with them, right? And of course, the way you ask these questions and figure the answers to those out can be very nuanced. They all introduce various biases, which hopefully you want to account for. But depending what scale you need, right? If it's really just the one, let's say, director of ecosystem or head of ecosystem position is, you probably want to go really, really deep in that, right? Because there's maybe a dozen people that are qualified to do that job. Maybe let it be 50, right? But are they all interested in applying? Maybe not, right? And you really focus on these and see how you can work them. But the other approach also, right, as Morgan pointed out, sometimes there is no job posting, but you really want to work for a company. I've done that in my past as a developer myself, right? It was a company that I really wanted to work for. And I said, hey, you know, I really want to work with you. See my pull requests that you merge into your open source solution. So let's work together, right? Maybe there's some overlap. Again, that's not a scalable solution, both for me and applying, and then also on the other side, because they have to make time and get this cold email in, and whether they pay attention or not. There's so many variables, and timing sometimes is just off. So I would say it's simple, but it's not easy on both sides. And one more thing, for all the California-based businesses, please, please, please follow the law and tell everyone ahead of time what your salary range is. even if it's between, let's say, $500 and $500,000 salary range, whatever it is, follow the law, because that pisses me off as well, right? If I were to go through a 6-round interview, which I am no longer willing to do unless I really, really want to have a job, you know, salary, while not often the most important thing, at least to me, you know, it needs to meet a base range if I wanted to switch jobs.
It should be low everywhere, I think. But
yeah, and these kinds of like detail specific things are something that I would really like to see in the Discord, right? These kinds of conversations, because this is a personal experience that you mentioned because you have some emotional baggage with it. Andrea also interacted with you because of that, and I think that's really valuable, because this interaction does not happen usually, right? That's what I would like to have in the server, and then these people can connect, share these experiences, understand that they are not crazy, that this happens to other people as well, and that can give them the maybe the courage, maybe the push that they need to forward.
yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I fully agree, because we made some community Discord. I think Morgan asked who had the experience in that, and we had the similar feedbacks that people are connecting on the level that I had a similar bad or good experience, or I have the same opinion. So you're not crazy and you're not alone. Also, as he asked, is there any value or making a community? If you make it well, and if you make it with the topics and rooms that are in the center, and you have good community managers, you will get the value from it in any way, on positions and even higher position, or information about people, where are they, those kind of people that you're looking for. So community is amazing, and Discord for now hosting this kind of conversation, you can do it in AMA and different stuff, different workshops. So I think it's a good direction.
Nice. I mean, I can share my story with Cardano. I kind of was working before in a job that I kind of got tired of, and it started taking a toll on my maybe mental health a little bit. It was an engineering technical job, but not really related to a kind of programming that is necessary in the Cardano ecosystem. I got involved with Catalyst, and like Matthias said, and I do disagree, Morgan, you said that you prefer sometimes people who are more humble than the people who are more, jumping at the opportunities, if I understood correctly. I disagree with that completely, right? Just by showing up and saying, I want to take on this problem, you already are, way above other people. Because I think this, I don't have, again, proof, but I think there's many people who are just scared to apply because, no, they will never hire me, right? And just by showing up, I'm talking from a perspective of someone who wants to get hired and who wants to build a career. Even if you get hired, you work for 2 months and you get fired, it's not the end of the world. Maybe for your respective company, that's not the best thing, and I apologize. But for me, as someone who's pushing forward, I'm willing more to risk that for 2 months, to build, to work overtime if necessary, and to fight up. And if I do fight up, I made a big jump, right? So I showed up in Catalyst. We were doing these after town halls, and I was in Swarm, pretty active, Gimbal Labs, things like that, just showed up. And it was nice. First of all, you meet these great people, nice people, and you kind of learn from them and you get connections with them. But then someone, mentions, hey, we have a bit of a budget, from Catalyst here and a bit of there, and what about this and what about that? And then even this within Catalyst, this is very important. Just knowing the Catalyst process. You can charge people for writing proposals. You can charge people for, guiding them through the process of Catalyst. That's something that you have to think about to offer, but that's something. right? For sure. Just knowing the community is something. And then I, by chance, went to a local Cardano meetup that was like 10 of us, and Vedran was there, who was a founder of Revuto, who is a founder of Revuto. And we talked about Catalyst, and he said, okay, well, you know, let's talk. And I said, okay, let's talk. And that's how I started, right? And then after that, you go to a conference again, you show up, and I had lunch with the Genius Yield guys, and we talked about Haskell and all the, you know, drama about it and all of that. And, you know, we kind of bonded a little bit. There was a role open. I never even saw the role. And yeah, they offered it to me and we agreed. So in my personal experience, just showing up, being a bit brave, maybe taking a chunk of work that you may not feel ready for. Again, this is personal. Maybe someone is crazy and just want to be a, you know, a CTO of something without ever opening a terminal. But I don't know. But just, you know, being brave and then working to support that bravery for a bit, overworking, fighting, can get you a long way, I believe. That's just my experience.
Yeah, I have mixed opinions on that. I think that's fine.
That's why I didn't get hired by IOG.
Maybe.
That I applied for. I applied for community manager. I had 4 interviews and then they didn't let me.
Yeah, bummer. Yeah, if you bias for extroverts, then you get an interesting mix. You know, I'm an ENTP, I think, so I'm slightly more extroverted than introverted, but I have a lot of introverted friends, and for some of them, they're incredibly smart people who are great contributors, but they do have that initial doubt, and it's not reflective of how they will perform in a role, but you know, when you're qualifying for something. Anyway, folks, I have to run for another meeting, but I've really enjoyed this opportunity to just meet you, get to see some faces, hear just some of the pain points of how recruitment, hiring, qualification of candidates is ongoing in the ecosystem. So I'll just leave you with then just one thought, and with some of you, I may just reach out independently and pick this up with a few of you. If IOG / Cardano Foundation was to support this as a community effort, what could we do to leverage our influence, to leverage our resource and team, that build something that people will actually, the community will rally around and use? Again, with no profit incentive here, we're not looking to make a buck. This is literally supporting the community, supporting the ecosystem, and supporting your businesses. So I don't expect answers right now, and I do have to run, but I will pick that question up with a few of you, and I would love to hear answers asynchronously. So thank you everyone for your time. It's great to be here, and I will speak to you all again very soon.
Thank you, Morgan, for showing up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can stay and hang out for maybe the next 20-30 minutes. I would love to hear maybe more from Obu, from Dario, Felix. I always like to hear from people who don't speak much. Usually they have a lot to say. Okay.
So yeah, I think why I'm not speaking much is because I think I'm learning more. So when I'm in an ecosystem where I feel like I need to learn, I naturally like listening more in that space. Because I still like relative to Cardano, I'm still relatively new, like relatively. So I want to know like the experience of other people. As you're telling me the experience, I'm trying to counterbalance it with my own personal experience to know if it's the same, if it's different, and all that. But yeah, relatively, I would say we are having almost similar experiences here. Like someone talked about how hiring has been in the ecosystem. For me, I think what has been going on personally is I have to individually chat up with project owners tell them about what we do and how we can help them and all of that. So for me, one of the pain points has always been with trying to know where the projects are, like who currently does have a project, especially being that for me, I'm more about mission-based. I'm mission-based, right? So it's a little bit different for us because we're trying to see how do you give everyone opportunity. So I really enjoyed when you spoke about the fact that just showing up is enough, and like I think I strongly agree with that piece of opinion. Like just showing up in itself should have an inherent weight in the whole hiring process. Like so, my next question I wanted to ask you was with respect to that opinion, how do we build this? How do we build this as a system or as a process in itself? That the courage to show up in itself becomes rewarding, self-rewarding to the talent who just who wants to change the narrative of his own story, right? So, like I said, my opinion will always come from the whole inclusivity and diversity point, because that's where I'm really focused on. And so maybe my points would somehow look a little bit very sentimental because of having to relating with the talents on a more personal basis and on their stories. It's quite different from when we're trying to hire on just the plan metrics of just so do you have 3 years experience and all of that. So these are like two different things. I'm trying to see how do we hire people based on the stories, on the shared interest, on their share on their sheer willingness to push the narratives out, to change their narratives and all of that. So somehow that is a little bit conflating with the process, the natural process of hiring that we do have, where people are hired by according to 3 years experience in this, 5 years experience in that. So I don't know. This is a little bit of a question to you, Philip. If you agree with the fact that just showing up in itself, for me, I don't think I agree totally when you said just showing up in itself is enough. I think just showing up in itself should have a weightage. That is my own opinion, that just showing up alone should have a weightage. Now, how do we build that into a process or into a system that allows people that show up to inherently have a weightage that is either self-rewarding or in the long run will build some level of value? So that's where the question would come around.
I know you asked me, but Nin has, I'm sure, something to add.
Yeah, Yubio, I think we're on a similar mission, right? I believe that almost anyone can learn almost anything in the world. That's why we have, mentorship program where we take people, they don't need to know anything, and we teach them everything as long as they're willing to work hard, put in the time, right? Communicate, join meetings, take care of themselves. They're good. And after a couple months, people are landing jobs. We've helped 112 people already that have come here and, marketing, engineering, sales, whatever, right? Project management. And we send them off, and it always warms my heart. Even if we're in the bear market, I don't care, right? People are still finding jobs. The fundamental issue with hiring, and I've been in HR tech for 8 years, is that people depend on resumes. Hiring, fundamentally, it depends on resumes. Right? If you don't have a resume, unless you meet the hiring person, like hiring manager in person at conferences, where they don't even have a job posted, and you talk to them, you tell them the stories, right? Then that works. But at scale, like if you talk to a bigger company big companies have jobs, right? Startups, you may have a couple of jobs here and there, right? But Amazon's hiring now, no longer hiring right now because they're in hiring freeze, but when they restart, they're gonna have, tens and hundreds of thousands of jobs again. So if you really want to impact hiring at the big scale, you gotta develop a product that convinces them to move away from resumes. And fundamentally, when I talk to VPs of talent acquisition, they're like, yeah, resumes suck, but that's kind of what we've done. It's scalable. There's a whole ecosystem. It's like Cardano versus Ethereum and other ecosystems in a way, right? Much better foundations, much more secure. It's, you know, peer reviewed and so on, versus a huge ecosystem where it's easy to build, easy to gain traction and so on. So for them, like when they look at, okay, how much time do I have to put one recruiter in order to hire 10 people? Right, they have to put a lot of time to be able to meet these individuals and kind of listen to their stories, right? And while the recruiters they need to hire 100, 200, 300 people in a year, right? So it doesn't make sense in that world. So stories, great. What we're doing is we're actually helping people create work samples. Work samples, typically you and I, right? If we sign up at a company, even if you go and work at IO, they will have you sign on confidential agreements, right? You can't really show them the code or show them the work, right? Obviously, for reasons, IP and so on. However, with technology like verified credentials, where especially if you enforce zero-knowledge proofs, you can still be issued verified credential. You finish this work and you know this Python or JavaScript or marketing or whatever skill set, and someone else can vouch for you. It's self-attesting. You own it. It's on your local device, local storage, local credential store. And maybe we issue it, but the company verifies it, right? And you hold it in your like verified on-chain wallet, not wallet, resume, right? That you can present alongside with your resume, right? You have verified, like, hey, what if, like, arguably the most valuable piece of data in hiring for a lot of these big companies is background check. Not background check, it's not even. Background check provides you, like, hey, they worked here and here and they had this title. But even more valuable than that is references, right? Like, yes, UBO and Philip and Matthias and so on and Felix did a great job. I love working with them. They communicate well and so on. So I get calls all the time for the 100-something people. Hey, how did they do it? When did they start working? What was their title? And as an employer, I would love to just say, hey, look at they have a verified credential. They work. I issued it at this time. I give them 5 stars or whatever, right? I don't have to repeat it. Saves me time. It gives the job seeker credibility, right? Much more than resume, because they've done the work and the work they've been paid out or whatever. So kind of creating a path technically and establishing trust of these verified credentials. So plugging into like Sovereign and Hyperledger, the most trusted registry, making Atala Prison more trusted, and just becoming more successful as a company, right? The more success, like for example, LinkedIn, right? Anyone can edit, but because you can see like connections and recommendations there, people start to trust it. Even though I can put in skill set, like I know astrology or astrophysics, which I don't. I'm a fan, right? I geek out, but I don't. And people, when they see my profile, they just LinkedIn recommends like, hey, doesn't he know astrophysics? Of course, whatever. Right. So having a verified credential type to enable and empower not just job seekers. You have to empower the employers too, because they're the ones that have jobs, right? Especially in this market right now, it's a bear market. So the power is with the employers, with the job posters. Before, in the bull market, there's too many jobs and not enough talent. Then the power is with talent. So
thank you,
yeah.
Nin. Just for the sake of the time, I don't want to cut you off, but Matthias, I would like to hear him.
Yeah, so even though I didn't have to write a resume for many, many years, luckily, I assume a lot of the companies that I ended up working for actually needed a resume because there are requirements that especially corporations, have to fulfill to stay compliant. And that might include actually, keep track of every potential employee, so applicant, that would fit your requirements and keep their resume on file. So a resume also is again, depending on the position, is a quick filter. So it's not perfect, but if you really get hundreds and thousands of applicants, I look for, when I changed my approach to hiring, right? Because talking to hundreds of applicants just for one, like taking actually interviews, wasn't scalable. I needed to do other work, right? And resume is a quick filter for that, right? It is not often what is not there, but often what is there that doesn't sit right, right? And resumes can be used for like, different people look at the same resume and see different things. It is the base of a conversation also, right? And to Ubio's point earlier, I think, yeah, because I feel a little bit what the questions that we need to figure out also, and hopefully that is handled in a cover letter anyway, that the applicant kind of aligns with the values. And I think this is where many organizations within the Cardano ecosystem really shine, because a lot of applicants, they connected with either our company vision, right, or Cardano's vision, right? So that is definitely a bonus point. And if everything seems decent enough, I want to talk to that person, right? So I think that is also important. But I think it would be too simple to say, yeah, resumes don't count anymore. And one last thing that I wanted to point out, the whole showing up thing, it should, in my opinion, not really be a requirement, because that is a privilege, right? So there are so many people that cannot afford to show up to town hall or to other social events who can show up right? Show the face, let people know who they are, but that might still very well be qualified. Like, job seeking in itself is a full-time job, right? So we also have to be aware of the burdens we put on people. And granted, if it's like a highly paid position, probably the candidates that you seek might already have the financial buffer, might be able to make some free time to go through the 5-6 step process and do all that. But if it's just to get the foot into the door, and I know like that is counter to my own experience, but I also was not willing to go through the same processes that I introduced at another company where I wasn't a co-founder, but a CTO. Because on our perspective, right, okay, we need them to give some homework, some code examples, they send it in, blah, blah, blah. And then you have another on-site coding interview and do all that spiel. It wasn't like a 5-step interview, but it was still very involved, right? So it really depends on the position, I would say. And junior positions are probably a little bit more forgiving and easier to get into, I would say. At least that's my current perspective.
Thank you, Matthias. Ubio, I'm going to give you a little bit of a direct example how I imagined it on the server. I do agree with Matthias that showing up is a privilege. It really is. Like, showing up for Genius Yield for me meant going from Croatia to Texas to Consensus, which cost a lot, which I was lucky enough that my current client paid for. It just, that cannot be a normal expectation, right, by any means. But showing up to a Discord server, which is asynchronous, and that's, at least from my perspective, that's something minimal. Like, Discord is a free tool. Like I said in the beginning, people who are looking for jobs will not be charged for looking for jobs. So how did I imagine showing up, quantifying it, right? I am thinking about, and I would like to get feedback about, the leveling system in this Discord channel, which means either the number of posts that you write, the number of comments that you make, replies or something. can get you to a higher level. Let's say if we have a leveling system, by your name, it can say level 5 or level 7 or whatever. And then a future recruiter or someone who wants to hire you can look at, okay, well, this person is at level 7, which means that they actually gave in. Now, this is coming from a professional perspective. This person wrote, at least had enough activity in this server that I can check. It's quite easy in Discord to just look for a user and look at all of their posts. And if you see that these posts have some concrete value, right, that's a very nice sign that, okay, well, this person maybe knows what they're talking about or doesn't know, which is also fine, right? But and this is what I asked, Giulio and Alexander was, I don't really plan to limit someone posting jobs or hiring agency or talent acquisition companies. I really don't want. I want to bring as many opportunities as possible. What I do ask for someone who is in the server is to provide some value. Andrea is obviously a professional in what she does. So if she can share some materials, if she can share a link, a PDF or something that's publicly, a YouTube video about, hiring process or struggles that she had or some other people had, it doesn't have to be something, specific and ultra secret, just something that adds value to other people there so that people who don't have that value can learn. That's how I feel that we can all engage with each other. So my leveling system was that, like, comment, maybe even likes, but I'm thinking about that can be gamed. I'm thinking not. Comments by, I don't know, number of words, interactions, etc., etc. I don't really know it yet, but something that can put you above, and that mods, if someone tries to game it, mods can kick or ban or limit those accounts, right? That's sort of my idea that can maybe push people a little bit forward, right?
I think I do agree with that. So because that is like giving someone an opportunity to prove his or herself, and that's quite important. Like, so for me, I'm looking at it from always from that point of how do we allow people to prove his or herself? Like, that is most critical to me. And again, like, I'm so thankful that you actually brought this up, because when Matthias spoke, I wanted to also bring up the discussion about showing up is not always about coming to the meeting. Showing up can be classified in different ways, right? So that's basically what I had in mind. So when you brought up this, this was like another level, and I was like, yeah, this is actually showing up. And if we do a little bit about brainstorming, right? If we brainstorm on different levels, we can actually realize how do people show up, even to the executive position that we do think about, that people can actually do show up without necessarily showing up, like in the context, right? How do people do show up? And if we look at it critically, we might actually find a pattern that might have not been observed, and that pattern can just be the solution that we are looking for. How do people show up in different contexts? How do people show up can be the person engaging in the discussion, that's showing up. How do people show up could be the person asking questions. Can questions just be, can we just analyze the person's interest? That ability to ask questions and all that, and be like, this is this guy showing up. Can this person come into meetings and like where we are having job discussions and all of this, be the fact that this guy is showing up? Can this person taking volunteering roles? Can it be the person showing up? So we can actually analyze showing up on different levels, and we might be able to find out something unique about showing up that we might have not observed. But for me, I strongly feel that what Nien said is still true, although, like, from what Matthias said, Matthias also brought up the angle of saying that there are a lot of nuances to it, and I totally agree. But again, resume should not be the only yardstick. I agree that resumes are essential, and for us that are in the HR tech space, there is no question about that. But the question is about how are people showing up in other ways? Can we have will a hybrid mode be a lot more effective, or combination of different factors together with the resume, maybe, or for certain things? Like, I'm just trying to see, like, let's dig deep and see how people showing up in different levels. That's just what I want to add there.
I agree. Just to be a bit more practical, I think in reality there are pieces of work that someone looking for a job needs to do, and someone recruiting needs to do, and someone hiring needs to do, right? And it's on all three of these potential parties to do some work, right? Let's say in the Discord server example, I want to get a job. I can select a role, let's say looking for work, and I can take a week, and let's say I'm a business developer, right? So I need to present myself in that server in the best possible way that someone looking for business developers would like to talk to me, right? That's my job. That's my responsibility. Let's not run away from that. It's my responsibility. Okay. So what do? I go to the business developers channel. I share some materials. Someone asked a question. I try my best to answer. I offer things, I show my expertise, but also, to your point, I can show my values. There are channels where we can talk generally, and we can say, hey, look, I support this or that, and someone else support this. Who can I join? Things like that, so that maybe Andrea, when she looks for a business developer, she can go through these posts and say, well, she can make at least some sort, I would say, and Andrea, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think that would be a more educated guess on a person's profile than just looking at a resume. You see this person interacting for a few weeks or months in an environment, in a community, and you can maybe make a better guess of who that person is, at least a little bit better than just reading off a resume.
I think when you look on, let's say, providing this as a service to the community, I think one really important thing is, let's say, okay, a resume is great, but let's say, for example, look on, maybe 5 years from now, a lot of enterprises onboard new employees already through AI, right? So a resume might be quite important as well. What, let's say, you as an applicant are able to provide us data, but not forcefully human readable data, can also be machine readable data, right? I think there, for example, to say, when you set up the server, you will have quite some OGs in the beginning joining. When the server gets bigger and let's say you gain some traction and the thing grows, then a lot of newcomers will join as well. Maybe the first time they hear about Cardano, the first time they hear about Web3, the first time they hear about anything. And now you have a quite nice messy mix there, and becomes quite chaotic because now you have to somehow stick to a responsibility to say, hey, we are able to provide experts, right? The people you want to bring closer to the enterprises, let's say, who are looking for employees. You, with your facilitation here, you want to make sure, okay, they have lower risk to hire these people because you know they are experts already in their domain. And you want to be able to provide this, let's say, for example, through, like you said, a level system on Discord. But I wouldn't recommend, because then you start mainly to measure quantity, but not quality, because Discord messages don't mean a lot. And you might have some very active people who feel quite familiar, who speak quite to themselves on public channels, but yeah.
I think that would have to be moderated somehow. But yes, all good comments. Thank you, Felix.
And one thing that I think you should definitely look around is play with bounties. In the best case, you want to facilitate this first step, right? How to get unknown people closer to enterprises which would love to work with them. Because once you have this done, let's say the applicant has the massive advantage, right? When the enterprise starts to know them, feel familiar, they start to establish trust, and hire the person becomes a natural next step for them, right? So maybe much more a process over several months, maybe even, right?
Yeah.
where you are able through, and now this would be quite important for enterprises. They are very often, I would say, not there yet, because today each company wants to have their community. They want to build this environment around where they simply cultivate their experts, because the stuff we speak about, they're mostly now experts. You have to very often get them yourself as experts, right? So that enterprises would have, for example, the ability to go on your Discord and post bounties where people already can start to engage with them if they have something. And so you start already to build a certain engagement, a certain process. And the nice thing, you capture the bounties, right? You get data out of this. If you want to build now a level system, you don't have to rely on, let's say, Discord engagements through messages. You can directly relay, even in the metadata of your transaction, back to the task, back to the bounty. And the enterprise can go on the profile now and sees a beautiful summary of all his accomplished bounties and tasks, which provides a really nice expertise and experience, right? It can be trusted because you do it on blockchain even, right?
Felix is always 5 steps ahead of me in these things.
We
And
love
I think
Felix.
that's really, I think that's a nice direction because, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, and you know, Felix, for people who don't maybe know him and are familiar with his work, he is the owner, founder, and manager of, I would say, many Discord channels. And I had the privilege of seeing him grow from just a normal Discord channel to integrating bots, to integrating D work, to integrating bounties, to creating these things. So far further ahead than me. I was even a bit shy to ask him for help at this stage. I was going to ask him a little bit later, but thank you, Felix. Matthias.
Yeah,
And then I will have to go in about 5 minutes. But you can continue. I'll just stop recording and for however long you want to stay.
Sounds good. Gotta take care of ourselves. Go to sleep, for example. Yeah, great suggestion with the bounties, as expected from Felix. What I would say though is that I think bounties themselves, for better or worse, would lead more to a contractor role, right? So the working dynamics are very different. And actually, you know, if Catalyst, the funding picks up again, you know, that might be actually the more appropriate thing. In the past, we've, you know, thought about, okay, you know, this is like takes this much time, and, you know, teams usually would budget for that as an employee role. And that's not really, it's great for the people that work on it, but not too great for the people who actually manage the money. Because what you might run into is, you know, sometimes you just have to wait on external things, and all of a sudden, oh, this thing that got promised from a third party is nowhere near delivering, right? So, and that obviously wouldn't work in a now milestone-based funding anyway. So I would say I think there's many benefits for working with contractors anyway, from a company perspective. But I think the bounties work well for contractors, probably, and it can be a test just for work quality for employees. But I think there might be other things that are needed, and we can certainly discuss that in the Discord, which we'll soon have. Probably very nice bots and stuff.
Yeah, don't put so much pressure.
Can I share some insights for the bounties and enterprises? And you know, Felix and Matthias, they both had a good point. You know, the thing about bounties, it does give entry-level people like learning opportunities to get hands-on projects. In software engineering, actually, you don't need bounties. You can go to GitHub and start contributing to any open source project. Bounties just create a way how to organize things, and there's more documentation about the task, so people are able to pick things up quickly. However, when you talk about helping, you know, people that normally don't have access to opportunities, have more access to opportunities, you know, they are competing with millions of job applicants, millions of, you know, new graduates that are graduating, and they need a job. Everybody's applying, right? So for enterprise to find an entry-level person, they just need to post a job, and there's literally thousands of applications, if not tens of thousands, because enterprises, they already have the employer brand, and they already have, they're already known. So when they post a job, and they use ATS systems and other systems to distribute their jobs on different job boards. So enterprises, however, are looking for senior talent, right? People who with experience, even if they depend on resumes, and that's fine, or trusted partners. So bounties, like Matthias mentioned, yeah, it can lead to a contractor, but contract can lead to a hire. If like our bounty board is kind of like, okay, we can find you whoever you need, 5, 10, 20 years of experience and whatnot, right? We have the AI matching to do that for you. And then if they post a bounty, sometimes the junior people can apply and come alongside. But what we found out is that, a lot of the junior guys, unless they have direct supervision like we have with our mentorship program, they're not able, the mentors don't have time to teach while they do these bounties, because a lot of times it's competitive. So a better, more straightforward approach is if we just get the contract ourselves as a company, as Snapbilia, right? We hire the senior people ourselves, and then we build a team with the senior people and junior people and sell it to enterprise companies. That is something enterprise companies would buy. They would not do bounties because they can just hire contractors directly, or they would just, post a job and get hundreds of applicants directly. Bounties are really, really useful for small companies with limited budget, and also more straightforward companies that are forward thinking. They're like, yeah, I just want to pay on completion of the project. Right. So we've had a lot of success with small companies and mid-sized companies for bounties, and for enterprise companies, it's more about helping them deliver qualified interest candidate via job posting, or managing the whole project ourselves, and then we can build a team that includes junior people. So those are my 2 cents. It's just, I wish the world would be perfect and everybody would get it and make things easier. Maybe 3 to 4 to 5 years from now, when everybody has a verified credential and the bounty process works, it works with people giving them jobs, but it didn't achieve so much success. Even Gitcoin and their bounties, it's only famous in Web3 ecosystem, right? You don't see any, huge companies posting bounties there, because their recruiting teams, that's not what they do. Anyways, I want to leave it there. There's hope, but we just need to work in a way that enterprises understand, and it's valuable for them.
Thank you, Nin. I see Julio left, Andrea left. Thank you. I have to leave as well, so I'm gonna stop the recording now.